PGA Tour and LIV Golf have agreed to merge, and I'm going to try to break this down as well as I can. There's just a lot of weird nuances in it, and there's going to be a lot that we discover throughout the next couple of days about this agreement, but I'm going to be touching on what we know right now based off of this agreement. So the first thing that we know is that this agreement came about via the PIF, which is the Saudi Public Investment. And so what we know so far, the whole point of this merge was to make a global entity for the game of golf. The way that this is going to be achieved is obviously by the PGA Tour bringing in more money via the PIF. And the PIF is reportedly giving around $1 billion. That is literally the words that came out of their mouth on the CNBC News report. What we also know is that with this deal, it's going to become a for-profit, separate kind of LLC for it. And that name will be determined at a later date. Now, I don't really know what that means just yet. I don't think anyone really knows what that means just yet. What we do know is that the PGA Tour is still going to have kind of the charity aspect of it at its local tournaments. At all their little tournaments, that's still going to be the same. At least that is what the commissioner said. And really the PGA Tour, the summary of why they're doing this is obviously money. It always comes down to money. And two, the global impact. They realize that pretty much there's going to be more money made globally than just operating more in the United States. And so I did find this tweet to be extremely interesting as well, that, and I shouldn't say we know this for sure, but they will reportedly have to pay a fine. The LIV golfers that are trying to play again on the PGA Tour, and I would assume the DP Tour, would have to pay a fine to then rejoin the PGA Tour. I'll have to figure out what that is. We also do know that the LIV Golf schedule that had already been pre-planned is going to still take place. Anything that was already previously agreed and previously scheduled is still going to take place for LIV Golf, which I find interesting because that's going to run until November 5th. So we really won't know too much in regards to what the LIV golfers are going to do until after that, I would think. So what I'm extremely interested in is how will those LIV golfers that gave up their PGA Tour card, how they go about getting that back? To me, I would assume that they would have to re-earn those. Okay, so or DP Tour cards as well. And so there's going to be a bunch of different ways for them to go about doing that. I think we might see some big name players on the Korn Ferry Tour. And honestly, for the game of golf, I think that'd be extremely fun. Or on the DP Tour there as well. Now, there's going to be a bunch of special exemptions and whatnot, but it's going to be extremely fun to see how those LIV golfers will go about doing that. And that's why I think really at the tail end of the LIV golf season is when we're going to really start to see the biggest impact of it. But to me, that's going to be kind of an exciting part of all of this. So we do know that there is going to be a huge investment being made by the PIF. Okay. Literally, they said about $1 billion. Whether you believe that or not, that's up to you. But given the amount of money that they have spent on LIV Golf, you would assume that they're correct, right? Money talks is really the biggest takeaway. But what is that money going to go towards? We already know that's going to go towards kind of the global aspect of golf, growing the game more globally. How do they go about doing that? But also, what kind of new features to the PGA Tour are we going to see? That's what I'm interested in as well. I do think this is going to be designed to grow the other tours more significantly. But what is it going to mean for the PGA Tour? I do think it's going to mean we are going to see bigger name players in a lot more events. The thing with it is we have just seen that thus far this season already. So kind of interesting in that regard. Hopefully, we still have cut-based events. That's kind of the unfortunate aspect of the LIV Golf making PGA Tour create elevated field events is that they had said that in the fall they're going to start taking away some of those cut-based events. So hopefully we still have the cut. My next biggest question is, what is this going to mean for LIV golfers and playing in the majors? We know that a lot of the golfers were able to qualify this year for the Masters and the PGA Championship based off of previous qualifying. But we know that a lot of the golfers now, they haven't been getting world ranking points, so they're really falling off in that regard. What is that going to mean for a tournament like the Players Championship, which will most likely now, I'm assuming, have the highest dollar amount for the winner? What will that mean for that event as well? Now, just real quickly, touching on kind of my thoughts and takeaways for this whole ordeal. Now, we're going to get more information as time comes on, right? But my first initial thought was kind of a bad look for both sides. The PGA Tour, for sure, one of their biggest selling points against LIV Golf was where the money was coming from. And now you're kind of taking that money. That's just a very strange look. We really know that the PGA Tour didn't want LIV Golf because it was bad for the PGA Tour. And in all honesty, it was just bad for the game of golf as well. It did always seem like this was going to be something that would happen down the road because it was inevitable. That is why I kind of found it strange that a lot of the LIV golfers and kind of everything that came out for LIV Golf was very much anti PGA Tour. They would very much kind of say one thing and then do another too, where they're like, no, we want to be a part of the PGA Tour, and then just bash them and whatnot. And really everything that LIV stood for when they would trash the PGA Tour, like saying, oh, the PGA Tour operates as a monopoly, we can't have that in the game of golf, that all goes away. And that's just kind of a strange look in that regard as well. What it comes down to is money. So to me, the biggest takeaway with this whole LIV golf thing, now that's going to be in the rearview mirror, is sure, a lot of these guys might have got paid money, but one, we don't know what that's going to mean for them down the road on the PGA Tour. Will they have to pay a fine and whatnot? And they're most likely not getting that a full allotment of that money. Some of the big name players got guaranteed money, yeah, but some of these players took risks, and we know that the contract was spaced out for 3 years, and there was something in the contract that said you had to pay those full 3 years, or else you would have to pay part of that contract out. So I'm actually very curious as to those contracts in general. I've been wanting to see those. I want to know what those are all about. That'll be extremely interesting. The second part of this is, how will that impact those players' legacies? I know personally for me, I cannot look at those players the same way I did previously, because in my eyes, they were trying to hurt the game of golf for their own personal benefit. And I personally just don't look at them the same. Whether you agree with that or not, that's really up to you guys. But to me, it definitely rubbed me the wrong way with DJ. Not really with DJ, I guess, because he was pretty honest, and a little bit of Brooks as well, and even Bryson in that regard, but kind of everyone else. It's just people that were blatantly lying to us about why they went there. I just can't look at them the same, especially Phil. Like, the PGA Championship win by Phil was, to me, the greatest, most random tournament win and maybe sport experience I'll ever see. Like, he had no business being in that event, and he won it. And that's forever tarnished for me, which is unfortunate. And who knows? Time could heal that wound, right? I know it's not a big thing, but I'm curious as to how much of Netflix Full Swing will be factored into this. Like, will they have a good storyline into it? Did they play any sort of role in this? Because obviously they had the F1 series, which was pretty successful. And I'm just wondering if they were telling the PGA Tour a little bit of stuff there. Not anything significant there, but I'm curious about that. It's weird. So to me, LIV Golf is, I would say it's a failure. I think that would be the statement, but it's also way too soon, I would say, to say that. We need to see what happens at the tail end of this. Will LIV Golf still be a thing? I would say no, but we'll see. Why I would say LIV Golf would end up being a failure is because this always seemed to be what would occur. That's why I personally struggle to get behind it. You just can't operate at a loss for that long, and you can't overpay these players for that long. And so it always seemed like it'd be a venture that would be a failure. But to me, what sucks about LIV Golf and why I kind of regard it as a failure is that everything that was kind of exciting about LIV Golf, the team events, the YouTube live streams, like that stuff, they failed to deliver on. Now, the product itself did get much better, and in some aspects where maybe now we should get more global events, and hopefully it's going to make the game of golf even better globally. And heck, we might see the game of golf rise up and be the third most popular sport in the world. Probably not. Maybe the fourth most popular. Probably not. Obviously, we got football, soccer, I'm in America, basketball. I would say those are the top three without even looking. And then maybe golf can slot in. I would say that's probably the end all be all goal. And as we know, really, besides pickleball, golf has been one of the highest growth sports really since COVID hit. So there's a benefit there. So like I said, like the team aspect was kind of fun about it. Like with golf, we don't really have any gear that we can buy to really support any player or team or anything like that. I'm actually very curious as to if the team stuff will just go out the door, right? Like what is going to occur there. So prior to this merge, it really did seem like the PGA Tour was heading towards kind of having two separate tours within the PGA Tour. Those that were like top 50 in the world that were going to be playing in these elevated field events, and those that were not, those that would be playing in these no-cut events. Are we still going to see that? Is that still going to be the plan? I mean, LIV Golf didn't have that many golfers, like 54, right? Like, actually, I don't know how many golfers they had under contract now that I think about it, but they didn't have that many golfers. So I'm actually very curious as to what this is going to mean for the PGA Tour in general. Also, are there going to be any PGA Tour golfers that now try to play on LIV? It's also very interesting. And then lastly, I'm very curious as to what this means for the CW. The CW got a new CEO in the fall that then decided to sign with LIV Golf to have them featured on their product. It does seem like that has been a failure. And so I'm actually curious as to really what that means for the CW, because I would assume that with LIV Golf now being a part of the PGA Tour, that would mean their TV deals that were in place are going to be the more prominent ones, but we don't really know. But I will say the biggest takeaway from this, and probably every golf fan should have this takeaway regardless of their feelings, is that this is going to end up being good for the game of golf as a whole. That personally is to me why I didn't like LIV Golf. To be honest with you guys, I didn't like it. Okay. It separated the game of golf, and I just didn't like that aspect of it. So overall, this is going to end up being really good for the game of golf. We're going to see events like the President's Cup, Ryder Cup, not have any drama around it for no reason. Majors as well. It's not going to be distracting. It's going to be focused on the game of golf, which we just hadn't had. So to me, that is going to be the awesome part about this merge, is that overall, especially hopefully 5 years down the road, it's going to be good for the game of golf. I would say right now, both sides are looking bad though. And so we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this coverage. If you did, give a like and subscribe.